As the last speaker of the day, it rests with me to thank all of our speakers for the stimulating conversations that we've had today. But in particular David and the work of the Early Action Task Force, because I suppose what they've identified are some very pragmatic steps that will help us move into an environment that seeks to act early. An ambition that I'm assuming we all share, but recognise that there are real difficulties in this sort of current climate that we're working in. The Big Lottery Fund has been really keen to support the work of the Early Action Task Force, but I'm particularly pleased because not only have we funded it, but I think it has really influenced our own thinking in the work that we're doing. And we've been really sort of closely thinking about our strategic investments and how they might provide the opportunity to invest earlier on. And essentially, there are a number of themes that have come up today that are very core to what we're doing. So we've taken a sort of an asset-based vision of social change, and that's recognising what we call people-powered change, the belief that individuals and communities with a bit of support can release their talents and skills to really make a difference for themselves. So recognising that that's a core element of this debate. Also, I was going to talk about three things really that really are influencing our thinking that I think will help us move to earlier action. And I've chosen four now based on what Louise was saying as well. The first of those is really thinking about recognising that localism in this idea of co-production, co-design with the people that you're seeking to benefit, along with supporting collaboration. What we find is that we often invest money to community groups. 95% of our money goes to the voluntary and community sector. But that's notwithstanding saying that that sector has to absolutely work hand in hand with all the local players within that local area. And I'm talking about with the statutory sector, with the private sector, and with the people that they're seeking to benefit. And that voice is really important. I think we've also moved into a longer term strategy. So David talks about, recognising let's move from 3 to 5 years. We funded for up to 5 years for quite some time now. We're moving beyond 5 years to 8 to 10 year funding. And I could say, I was totting up how much we've sort of announced recently, and about £500 million of our money over the next sort of period will be spent over a next 10-year plan to think about how we might impact on the lives of people with complex and multiple needs, how we might impact on the lives of those young people who are finding it difficult to get into education, training or employment, thinking about how we cope with the fact that we are living in an ageing society, and to support children, babies really, recognising that those early years and that early years in life is really, really important. But I think we've also recognised that what we need to do is to support not only cultural change but structural change. So a better start, which is our investment, £165 million investment into supporting 0 to 3-year-olds, will be working over 8 to 10 years in 3 to 5 localities. And the idea is we provide a significant investment, we're talking about £30 to £50 million in an area to really help people within that area and provide the opportunity to really, what David refers to, reconfigure local services, recognising that the professionals exist on the local ground, but how can they work differently to provide a stronger foundation for those young people. And the final point I wanted to make was that actually we are moving to a number of investments that are moving towards earlier action. So we've got our Improving Financial Confidence programme, which is a £30 million programme that's not seeking to provide debt advice, but is seeking to provide advice early on around how can people cope with their finances, how can people manage their finances so they don't get into debt. With government, we've recently launched the Advice Services Fund, again, which is thinking how can we act early to prevent people with the problems that cause people to seek advice. So really, there is and finally, I suppose, learning. I mean, we reflected on it today. I think learning and evidence really isn't just about the evidence, it's about winning hearts and minds. So all of those investments that I've mentioned will have quite strategic and long-term evaluation and learning packages around them. But for me, I guess, it's how can, the challenge that I would set this audience is how can we make sure that learning actually leads to change and impact. The Lottery Pound has the ability at the moment to demonstrate how we can move to earlier action and to see what the benefits of that earlier action can be. But I don't underestimate the problems in evidencing that journey. So it's about how do we evidence it in a way that's robust, that makes sure that the right audience is listening to us and that we're able to influence change after those 7, 8, 10 years of investment. Because at the end of the day, we will only be in there for that period of time, and then we'll need to move away. So these are tough times, but I guess in tough times we have incentives to do things differently. And I suppose where we're playing in this field is to demonstrate what is possible. I continue to look forward to working with David and the team and all of the people who really thinking about how we can move to earlier action, to give people more choices, opportunities and confidence to lead fulfilling lives, be part of successful communities and live in enriching places, or as David would say, support thriving lives that cost less and contribute more. Thank you.